Do you think the 49ers will actually beat the Chiefs this time around, or do you think Shanahan's going to continue to blow leads, specifically 10-point leads?
11-point.
We'll make it interesting. Welcome back to the James and Dame Show. I'm Josiah.
And I'm Will.
We're going to be going over Week 7 preview. So we're going to be looking at all the games that are going to be happening this next week. And it looks like we have some exciting games that are going to happen.
Definitely do. Before we get into that, we should mention that obviously Pick'em's getting interesting as you are now tied for first. Mm-hmm. As Jay New and Cats win a shocking, what was it, 13-1?
Yeah.
Which is just ridiculous in a given week. As you were both up to 52-40 on the year. I am
12 wins, baby.
I am a little bit behind. I still had a good week at 11-3, just not as good as I am 3 games back at 49-43. And we have people who are trying to keep up their best, and props to you. Mm-hmm. But, obviously, feel free to join the Pick'em, link in the description. Everyone is welcome to join and compete with us as we look forward to it. So, on to the games for this week and our picks.
We got a Thursday night game with the Broncos visiting the Saints. Ooh.
Sean Payton revenge game.
Sean Payton
rightfully so. The true revenge game,
Indeed. However, only 26% of people have picked the Broncos to win this game, which is very surprising.
They are considered, as far as betting favorites, 2.5 favorites. The Broncos are. So 2.5-point favorites for the Broncos. But apparently the not as favored ones. Curious where you're going to go with this one after Denver coming off a loss. Both teams coming off of division losses.
Losses, yes. However, Broncos have looked more promising than the Saints recently. I have been impressed with Bo Nix. I didn't think he'd be as good as he is so far this year, or at least this early. He's doing really well with being comfortable in the pocket. Peyton has been doing pretty well at coaching him, and seems that they have a really strong relation. They communicate very well, so it's very good to see that, especially in a rookie. I might just pick the Broncos because I'm very impressed with them recently, and I do not trust the Saints to win anything recently.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like you mentioned, Bo Nix has been playing well, kind of just doing what they can with the weapons they have, which is not a lot really this year.
No,
but they're working with it. I like how they've been playing. They kept the game against the Chargers close. And also looking at injuries, especially for the Saints, they got a lot of questionable guys.
Yes.
But most importantly, Derek Carr is still doubtful. And obviously the game is probably going to come down to if he plays or not.
Indeed.
At least at how good that game is. Saints still have a good defense, and I think it'll give the Broncos some struggles, but I'm going to also go with the Broncos just because I like what they've been doing. I think they're better coached, and I think they're just a little bit healthier.
Indeed.
So, Broncos.
Sweet. So there's our first upsets this week, theoretically, according to this Pick'em Leagues.
Depending on what you're looking at, so.
Yeah. Moving on to the London game, another London game. I feel bad for all the English people having to watch terrible football. Patriots versus Jacksonville.
So bad. It's so bad.
I don't know who's worse. That's the thing.
I mean, again, I still think the Jaguars are just playing way below their pay grade, and a lot of it is, um,
I mean, they're
coaching.
still in London, so they're adjusted right now.
There will be adjusted. They already usually play well in London. That obviously wasn't the case last week, but they're a team that has a surprising record when it comes to playing in London. Not so much when they play actually in London, but their record going into playing into London and coming out of playing in London is like a complete 180. They usually play really poor going like the weeks leading up to it, and then coming out of it they play really well. So maybe you see Jacksonville turn around. Maybe, even if this is a loss, maybe if this is a loss, this is where you see Peterson get fired. If he doesn't get fired,
Leave him in
for the
London.
game, I don't know.
Leave him in London.
Yeah.
If you lose this game, leave him in London.
might
I am
happen.
still picking Jacksonville to win this game. However, Drake May has looked promising, but he's not fully ready quite yet, and he also has a terrible roster around him. He has elevated some of his players a little bit, at least a couple of his receivers and a couple other key components on offense. But other than that, it still is the same scheme, same players.
Yeah.
So I'm not expecting anything to turn around immediately. So I'm sticking with the safe bet of Jacksonville right now.
Yeah, I'm also going Jacksonville just because both teams have been bad. Patriots again more just because of the roster that they have. May is still gonna take some time to adjust. The O-line still is really bad.
Indeed.
Don't have great weapons, and Jacksonville. I mean, O-line isn't great, defense isn't great, but
I don't think anything's good over there.
I think a lot of it still comes down to coaching, but they do have that extra week of being there. Plus, let's just get the ball to Brian Thomas. You'll be fine. So
I'm gonna give it to him. Like it's not hard. Just give it to him.
yeah. So yeah, I have Jacksonville winning that one, and might be the last time I pick them for the year,
At least
depending
for a
if
while.
they
Yeah.
let me down here. So, moving on now back to the states.
The US of A. We got the Atlanta Falcons hosting the Seahawks. Atlanta.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. Seattle, I don't think they're like as good as they were, or I don't think they were as good as their record showed after the 3-0 start. But I don't think they're a bad team.
They're not a bad team. I just don't think they're not on the same level as the teams they have been playing recently.
Yeah, the
Specifically
Falcons.
the Lions.
Oh yeah. The Falcons are. I could see this being an upset game just because I think the Falcons are gonna be not. Like I think they're gonna look good some weeks and not so, and they've showed some weaknesses other weeks. Seattle having a good defense, obviously a little banged up still, but I think if you're the Falcons, obviously this should be a winnable game.
Take what you can and run with it. That's all I'm
Yeah,
gonna say.
I'm sticking.
Literally run with it. Give it to Bijan.
Give it to Bijan. Give it to Kyle Pitts, because you do way better when he gets to the ball. Utilize your weapons. They got a lot of them, and their defense is also good. So
You have all that talent. You don't use it all the time. Use it.
that's all it'll take. Moving on to Tennessee and Buffalo.
Bills.
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo's not looked amazing the past few weeks, but Tennessee has been struggling. And I think at some point things are going to start to look a little better for Tennessee. I don't think they're going to look horrible all year. Not necessarily saying they're going to win a lot of games, but
No.
you look at Buffalo and how they've played, this could be a potential upset. At the very least, this is a game where Buffalo is 8-point favorites, and I could see Tennessee covering that because Buffalo's been playing a lot of their games close the past few weeks. That are losing, so they've got some work to do and got some proving they need to do. But I'm gonna stick with Buffalo because I'd be crazy to go Tennessee this week.
Me too.
I'm not that crazy.
Just a little.
Well, crazy enough to
Uh,
think this one, though.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So Bengals are visiting the Browns.
I don't know who I'm going.
Let me guess the Browns.
I am going the Cleveland Browns. Browns are getting Nick Chubb back. They play really well against Cincinnati. Cincinnati has not looked amazing, while the Cleveland Browns have also not looked great. All they have to do is turn and give to Nick Chubb, and I think they can put up 14 to 21 points. And with how the Bengals played last week, with some struggles on defense, I think you could definitely see the Browns scheme their way to a win here. So I'm going with the Browns, even though they are 6-point underdogs. So
I am sticking with the Bengals, though. While they are getting Nick Chubb back, their quarterback and the rest of that offense is not good. I do not have any faith in the Browns to turn things around. Bengals, however, while they have been playing sloppy, you still have Joe Burrow, you still have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and all those players. Defense, they exist somehow. However, I do think the Bengals offense can pull away with more points than the Browns offense with how comparing roster to roster. So
obviously roster to roster. I think the Bengals are far better, but they just haven't really shown it, and there's been a lot of issues in Cincinnati, a team again that should be better than their record, but I see this game going one of two ways, and that's either like Bengals blowing out the Browns or Browns squeaking out a win. I don't really like it's. I feel like it's like one of the two options, and I'm leaning towards the Browns kind of winning a close one. Again, just leaning on Nick Chubb and the rest of the run game. I'm just curious to see if they utilize him properly, how much that offense actually does open up, because
yeah, that's what scares me is like how are they going to use him?
yeah, and again, if they use him right, I think everything could open up, and I think it could actually help that offense work a lot better. Not saying they'll be good, but I think they'll look a lot better than they have. I think that's been a piece they've been missing desperately. But we can move on now to Houston at Green Bay.
I know I just said that the Packers are probably going to win this next week. However, this game is actually a lot more complicated than I thought. While the Texans are visiting Packers, and they tend to do worse against good opponents, as most teams would, I don't know. This one's hard to gauge because while it's a home game for the Packers haven't been. This one's tough.
It is
It's a highly contested game because you got two great offenses going against pretty young defenses when you really look at it. This could be a really good shootout where it's going to be like 2017 victory for one of the teams, honestly.
Yeah, it's a potentially game of the week, honestly. Well, actually,
There's another one who's contesting for that one.
Yeah, there's some contenders. I think this is a really good game, though. Again, like you mentioned, Jordan Love's starting to look better. Receivers in Green Bay are phenomenal. Good run game.
Indeed.
Good O-line. That defense has been playing very well. But you look at the other side in Houston, C.J. Stroud. You got also a lot of good weapons at receiver. Tight end, Mixon came back, I think, last week and played pretty well.
Yep.
And then again, their defense has also been pretty good. So it's like two sides of the same coin, I feel like, but kind of just pick your poison. I will mention Green Bay is 2.5-point favorites. I, myself, am going to go with the Green Bay Packers.
Okay. I think the key difference, or at least the key point that I would like to highlight, I believe Packers are not good on the rushing defense. They're not as good as they should be, with now Joe Mixon being back. he might cause some damage to that defense, or at least make them worry more, make them scramble more. So I'm going to stick with the Texans, only because, I don't know, I trust that team more than the Packers right now. Not saying that I don't trust the Packers. It's just the Packers, with a couple games before last week, their gameplay was a little sloppy. So I guess I'm still kind of hungover from their recent performances, but I still expect them to put up a really good fight in this game. So I think the Texans will squeak out a win here in Lambeau.
But I think that one should be a really good game. I'm excited for that one.
This one I'm not excited for. Dolphins visiting the Colts. This should be an easy win for the Colts. Dolphins still without Tua. Their best player, Tyreek Hill, can't do everything. Dolphins are injured to hell and back. So,
yeah, and obviously, like we've mentioned weeks past, they really just don't know how to do anything on offense without Tua.
no.
They obviously looked a little bit better against the Patriots 2 weeks ago. Obviously coming off a bye. Hopefully they're a little bit healthier, but just really haven't seen that offense do anything since Tua's been there, or since Tua left.
Yeah, since 2-11.
So even though Colts are kind of up and down right now, I just think there's way more they can do, and their bad defense still.
They still have Joe Flacco.
They have Joe Flacco, and even if it somehow ends up as a shootout because of how bad, I don't think there's any way it comes out to a shootout. I think it's going to be an ugly game, but I think Colts are going to come out with a win just because of, their backups are better, I guess. I don't know. So,
All right.
I'm guessing this was the other game you said was contending for game of the week.
No, there's another one.
Oh.
But yeah, this one's a good
Oh,
qualifier.
actually, there's a few.
There's a few. So the game we're talking about is the Lions and the Vikings. Lions are visiting the Vikings. Vikings are coming off a bye week. However, the Lions, while they are without Aiden Hutchinson, it is going to be pretty difficult, I would say, to not choose the Lions, especially their performance against the Cowboys. That offense is firing on all cylinders. The good matchups is going to be the Detroit Lion offense and the Vikings defense. Those are going to be some really good matchups. On defense, the only issue is obviously 2 edge rushers are gone for the Lions. Vikings are doing all right when it comes to the run game. I guess that's just the one place where I'm concerned, where the Lions might fold a bit. So
Yeah, it'll be so. That was the interesting thing, especially with the Vikings having their bye last week. Is there was obviously the Aaron Jones injury while they were over in London, and they gave him that week off, and now he's currently listed as questionable, which is good news for the Vikings because he's a very important piece, and you're hoping that he's able to come back and play, because without it, you become a little bit more one-dimensional. And while the Vikings, even as a one-dimensional offense, are still a scary team to play, if they get Aaron Jones back, you might have some issues. Now, again, they are going against a very good Lions team, but they are missing Aiden Hutchinson, and that is not the only edge rusher they're missing, because they're banged up on that D-line kind of, especially on the edge. So it's going to be, can you find a pass rush and make Sam Darnold uncomfortable? Because if not, I don't really see a way, unless it's just a huge shootout, but I don't think Brian Flores' defense will allow a huge shootout.
No, it's going to be tightly contested. I do think, if you saw a couple of the interviews or not, those Lions players, they will die for Dan Campbell. And now that Aiden Hutchinson's out, they will die for Aiden Hutchinson. So that culture there is pretty scary. So if anything, they're willing to do whatever it takes to win this game just for Hutchinson. So
I'm sure they will. It's just I think they've lost too much of the talent up front, and I think that again, I think without a pass rush, with what the Vikings, the damage they can do in the passing game, with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and Sam Darnold playing well, I think they're just really scary. And then again, obviously Detroit is capable of a shootout game, and the way the Vikings have been playing on defense as well. The closest thing we had was the Packers game, but that required a comeback, and I don't know. It's just going to be tough. So I'm going with things are stacked against the Lions. Obviously, the Lions are a team that are well coached, and they have the roster to be able to still win that game. I'm not completely counting them out, but I'm just going in favor of the Vikings because it seems like everything is kind of stacked in their favor. Obviously, they're going to lose a game at some point, and I absolutely could see this being the game. But with the Hutchinson injury and just the way Minnesota's defense has been playing, I like them a little bit more.
this is the game where they lose. The Lions are going to beat the Vikings. Obviously, it's going to be a very close game. You can literally make an argument for either side, and it makes sense. It's just obviously, like you said, things are stacking against the Lions, but I do think the Lions are still going to be able to win games, even without Hutchinson. Well, this is the first test to see how much they missed him. They will miss him. So
Obviously. And I think, they might not miss him. I think this can show that they might not miss him as much as we thought, but I still think they'll miss him enough for this game to be a little out of reach. So
definitely, this will be one of those games.
it's just going to be, it's tough. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions pulled it out, but I don't see a reason why it's not convincing enough for me to go with the Lions on this one. So I'm sticking with the Vikings.
Fair. Looking to another last noon game, Eagles and Giants.
This one's interesting because obviously neither have been playing well.
Neighbors is back for the Giants, so they're going to be fully loaded.
Eagles playing just well below their pay grade. But
you barely beat the Browns.
Yeah, the Eagles, again, this should, I don't know how they could lose this game, but obviously they could. We saw the Giants beat the Seahawks a few weeks ago, so I think, especially this being a divisional game, it's very possible. You could see them play it close. I have a hard time picking the Giants here, so I'm gonna go with the Eagles. But
I'm also gonna go with the Eagles. It's kind of hard to pick the Giants.
Again, like you mentioned, they have Malik Neighbors back, and I think Philadelphia's defense has looked good most weeks. I think they only had 2 weeks where they didn't really show up. That being against the Packers and the Buccaneers, but I don't think that's really an issue you have to worry about here. And I think if their defense shows up, you just got to hand it to Saquon, and hopefully that's
just utilize him right. Just use Saquon Barkley right. Please use him right.
I think that's probably how that goes. I'm sticking with Philly. Moving on to those afternoon games, though.
Raiders visiting the Rams. So two teams with usually have crowds that are away teams. However, there are more Raiders fans in California than there are Rams fans. I am a believer that the Rams should win this game. Raiders are not going to look good even without Davante Adams.
Especially without Davante Adams.
I don't trust O'Connell. I don't trust Minshew. I thought Pierce would be a really good head coach. I thought he'd be the Dan Campbell kind of coach, but he has not really sparked a passion in that team, and they have looked very unorganized, like all over the place. Yeah. Well, so I trust the Rams more than the Raiders right now. So.
Yeah, and an important piece of information is that Cooper Kupp is listed as questionable, which is
So one of their receivers is probably going to come back.
he is potentially there, but even without him, like just Kyron Williams and whoever they have at receiver, as long as you have Stafford back there, they've looked all right. Like we've mentioned, the Raiders' defense is not good other than Max Crosby, so block him, you're fine. And again, Raiders losing Devontae Adams, you really don't have that much. I think they'll still be able to put up points because the Rams' defense hasn't been great either. So it could be a little bit more high scoring than I think people might be expecting. But I'm gonna go with the Rams literally just because that if the Raiders somehow pull out a win here, it's not gonna look good for Devontae. But
No.
yeah, I'm sticking with the Rams. Just I like what they have better.
Indeed. Then next afternoon game, we got the Panthers visiting the Commanders.
Yeah, I mean,
There's no explanation needed for that one.
you're coming off of your first like tough matchup in
their
a
first
while.
loss.
So yeah, it ended your streak. Obviously with a new and young, like a young team and a new team, just because there's so many new pieces there. The thing is going to be, can you keep it together, keep morale high, and go into next week and have what should be a easy bounce back win, but again, keep morale high and don't let a loss get to you against a good team. It happens sometimes, so obviously I'm not gonna count out the idea of an upset, even though again this is a team that you shouldn't allow an upset to. But again, Dalton's been looking better. He's made that offense look a little bit better week to week. So it'll be interesting. But I'm going to stick with the Commanders because there's only reason they shouldn't win is really just morale and beating themselves. So
I agree.
sticking with that.
Now here is the game of the week, or can be the game of the week, depending on how it turns out.
Well, literally, so Chiefs 49ers, I think the only reason why this looks like game of the week is because of headlines and Super Bowl rematch. I think if you look at how these teams have played this year, though, I don't think this is the most interesting.
Yeah.
Comparatively, but I still think it will be can be a very interesting game. Obviously, Kansas City playing sloppily all year, squeaking out wins. 49ers also playing sloppily in a different sense and actually losing games. I think that's kind of the difference is they've both been sloppy, but the Chiefs have managed to continue winning, which is where this gets really interesting because
I do think I'm sticking with the 49ers with this one, only because there's always something about like mid-season for the 49ers where they turn things around. It's usually about week 6, 7, or 8 that they like do a complete like not overhaul but turnaround 180. If this is any incentive to turn things around, then I don't know what it is. If you can beat the former Super Bowl champion, I would do that. So the thing is that the 49ers, while they are injured, still looking very good. Obviously, Brock Purdy. Now, George Kittle's been doing whole lot more. Deebo Samuel has even been doing more. You still got, Mason. Mason as a running back. He's still pretty good. CMC, while he's out, he'll be back eventually. So they'll be fine in the long run. 49ers overall are probably more healthy on offense compared to the Chiefs. The Chiefs are down a couple key players. I mean, you only have Kelsey, Worthy, and Juju Smith-Schuster. And even then, Smith-Schuster can't do everything. Wow, Worthy can run. Cool, I guess. So, I don't know. Speed isn't everything, but it can get you a lot of stuff. So, I don't think the Kansas City receivers are ready for a 49ers defense. defense.
Yeah, I mean, again, it'll be interesting because again, Chiefs banged up, losing a lot. They're missing a lot of starters right now, and what was already kind of a thin receiver room. Again, just missing pieces, but they made it work. They've made it work with the likes of Juju Smith-Schuster and Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy. The question really is going to be, like you mentioned before, are the 49ers going to continue to turn it around, or are their early season struggles going to continue? Because like they have in years past, they tend to start slow and turn things around and become one of the best teams usually. So will they be able to do that? Will this year be different, or will this spark kind of that bounce back? Well, I think last week potentially could have been what that was, but it'll be interesting. Chiefs are due for a loss. I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled out a win, but I'm going to go with the 49ers because I feel like they're bitter. This is going to be their revenge game, and it's not going to obviously mean much because it's a regular season game. Cross-conference game, it doesn't do a lot, but, I feel like they'll still get it, and the Chiefs are going to be like,
Whatever. That's preseason for us. That's their excuse. So I think the 49ers will win. Then going to Sunday Night Football. You have the Jets visiting the Steelers. Jets have not looked great. I mean, even though that they play close to the Bills, I don't think that will happen against the Steelers. Yes, they have Devontae Adams. However, I don't know. I don't trust the Jets to win this game.
Yeah, this one's interesting because obviously, how much better do the Jets actually play? You're still getting used to your new coaching staff and everything, or new head coach, new offensive coordinator, offensive play caller, whatever. It'll be interesting. It'll be nice. Well, it'll be nice to see Rodgers have another receiver that he's a little more familiar with. Hopefully, he can still trust. It's probably gonna come down to the Jets mostly because the Steelers, we kind of know what they are. They play pretty well. They got a really stout defense, and if you're not careful, they will run the ball all over you. And if they can run the ball all over you, they're going to be able to open up the pass game.
Yep.
So it'll be kind of up to New York if they can slow down the run game and move the ball at all against the Steelers defense. I think a key here is going to be Rodgers and not turning it over in crucial points of the game, because while that was a specialty of his in Green Bay, that's kind of been kind of a kryptonite in New York, just turning the ball over at poor times. So it's one I'm back and forth on. I think I'm gonna side with the Jets on this one. Again, it's not a game that I feel great about because both teams have been inconsistent, I feel like.
I agree with that statement.
Good offenses, good defenses, but it's never
consistent.
They've had a hard time having both on the same page. So I'll go with the Jets, but we'll see that Sunday night. So
I guess I'll stick with the Steelers, but I don't know. It's hard to gauge with a receiver making the game change, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to see that. So, but we'll move on to Monday nights. We got the Ravens visiting the Buccaneers for the first Monday night game. Lamar Jackson is what now, 22-1 against NFC teams?
Mm-hmm. And I am not going to go against him against any NFC team.
It's fair. So, I will also do the same as well. They'll play close.
Yeah.
They're two good teams. Very good teams.
Buccaneers offense has been clicking, and sometimes Ravens defense it's not fantastic. They've had some woes throughout the year, so it'll be interesting to see how they stop them, if they do at all. But Lamar has been doing wonders.
Head it off to Derrick Henry.
Yep, that one.
Feed him. Feed him.
That's another key piece, I think, with just the weapons we have on offense. Even if it comes down to a shootout, I think we've proven that we can go into a shootout and come out on the other side with a win, as evident from the Bengals. So I think, again, I'm trusting Harbaugh and his ability to get wins against NFC teams. A lot of that, again, is because Lamar is a really tough guy to play against, and those NFC teams are just not used to it. So
Yes.
I'm gonna go with what's been working, which has been Ravens against any NFC team.
Agreed.
So yes.
In the final game on Monday, you got the Chargers and the Cardinals.
And this is literally just what Cardinals team is going to show up, because
They can
Again-
be good, they can be bad.
they can upset good teams. They can play them real close and pull out a win, or they can look really, really bad. So
I trust the consistency of the Chargers as of right now. Chargers have been doing pretty decently. They've looked more complete as a team than the Cardinals have. Just because the Cardinals can win scrappy and they can win games at random doesn't mean that they are going to be consistent about doing said a task. So I am going to stick with the Chargers on this one.
yeah, it's again a tough one, because the Cardinals are, I feel like, a lot of what we expected out of the Bears, because it's young team who can pull off some upsets when they put everything together, but when they don't have everything together, it looks really, really bad. Then
Terrible.
so it's a hard team to gauge. And I think they're they're going to drop games they shouldn't, and then they're going to win games they also shouldn't. So
I agree.
it's always just difficult telling which one's which. I am going to go with the Chargers, because I think they're kind of clicking more on offense. They're able to spread out the ball a little bit more, able to move the ball, and then, again, their defense has been really good. So I think if their defense holds it together, they hold their ground, and they just allow the offense to kind of open up a little bit more week by week, I think they're going to be a good team. And I think this is, especially for Arizona, a team that's struggled against better defenses.
Yeah.
I think, so long
Chargers-
as they don't
Chargers have a
make
good defense.
mistakes. And then, obviously, again, Marvin Harrison's also questionable after suffering a concussion from last week. So, especially if he's out, it's a lot of it is stacked against the Cardinals, and I think they'll have to work more magic, which we've seen them do, but they'll have to work more magic to pull out a win here, and I'm not going to bet on magic.
I agree.
So Chargers win.
Sweet. And that kind of just wraps up preview. So that's what we're going to be sticking with. We're going to be putting in the Pick'em Leagues link in the description of this video so you guys can join us. You can compete with us. I'm currently tied for first. He is in technically second place, third place, depending on how the league ranks people. But it's very, very close. So I guess come and join the fun, I guess, because we get to kind of have bragging rights of if we do get games right. But thank you all for joining us. We'll see you, hopefully, at least one of us, in the live stream. See ya.
Bye.